UFC Fight Night Font versus Vera, two top 10 UFC bantamweight fighters clashing here in the main event slot. I'm excited for this fight card. It's not the greatest, but it's definitely a step up from this past weekend's card. Of course, we'll be recapping UFC Vegas 52. Now, it wasn't the best card on paper, but we did go 2 for 2 with our official plays, a clean sweep. And let's be honest, even though we weren't so excited about a lot of those fights, the fighters delivered. So we got another great episode lined up for you guys here. Still a little bit up in limbo here, so excuse if you guys don't like the way the video looks or if the sound is a little off. Still going to be setting up a lot of new things here. Everything's in limbo, as I've been telling you guys. Just bear with me for the next couple weeks. The teller's on the run, but we got a great episode lined up for you guys. Let's get into it.
The teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC Vegas 53. We got Font and Vera clashing in the main event. Two fighters that always bring it. Two guys that I am a big fan of watching perform. So I'm excited for the main event fight. What do you guys think about it? I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. We have Arlovski taking on Collier and the co-main event slot. So another co-main event fight that's a little bit on the weaker side, but overall, like I said, this fight card is a slight step up from this past weekend's fight card. Excited to watch Grant Dawson clash against Jared Gordon. Those two guys can fight for sure. Jotko versus Meerschaert. We have Romanov taking on Sherman. That's going down on this upcoming card. Of course, it was supposed to take place this past weekend, but it fell through. Two fighters that I'm very much looking forward to watching perform this upcoming Saturday. Yohan, who's taking on Gabe Green. Linnaeus made a big splash in Dana White's Contender Series. Had a explosive finish on the show. He's undefeated. He is a fighter that a lot of people think has real potential to represent Canada. And then another fighter that has great potential to represent his country, the country of Japan, is Tatsuro Taira. And both these countries, Canada and Japan, they have a long history of having a solid place in the sport of MMA. But as of recently, maybe slacking a little bit, especially when it comes to the UFC in regards to Japan and Canada, both of them really. Of course, we have ONE FC, and then there's a lot of solid Asian fighters fighting over there. But as far as in the UFC, we're still looking for more depth. Of fighters coming from these parts of the world. At least I'm excited and intrigued to see if Tatsuro can be that fighter. He's 10-0. He's undefeated. We'll be jumping into that fight here in a second. Let me not go on too much about it. Obviously, you guys can tell I'm a little excited about his debut. So for now, let's go recap UFC Vegas 52. It was a clean sweep. We go 2 for 2. We hit both of our official plays. We came in light. Came in with a small briefcase, but we were there for business. We cleaned them out. And we left nice and promptly. So let's talk about the two plays we targeted, and let's recap the card as a whole. So you guys remember the big match that was kicking off UFC Vegas 52, Mike Jackson taking on Dean Barry. Now, I tried to warn you guys that line was a little ridiculous on a guy like Dean Barry. I get it. I know that Mike Jackson is a scrub and obviously showed it once again. And I think this is definitely the last time that we see him fighting in the UFC. A lot of people felt that he could have continued and he took the easy way out. But either way, if you were laying any money on that type of line on Barry, I don't know what you guys were doing there. The line was ridiculous. Dean Barry was winning the fight, but it just wasn't worth a stab on a line like that. So hopefully none of you guys touched that. Now we go to the next fight. This was my first official action on the card. Felipe Lins to take out Marcin Prachnio. The more and more closer we were getting to this fight card, I was actually liking this Lins fight. At first, he was coming off some losses. He's shown to have some holes in his game as well, but he has underrated boxing. And as we saw going into the weigh-in, he was looking to be in phenomenal shape. I felt very confident, or I felt good about the fact that he was dropping down to the light heavyweight division from the heavyweight division. I felt like it was more fitting for his body. And you guys know Marcin Prachnio is a guy that has very below average striking defense, and he's just a suspect fighter. Although he was coming off some wins, if you really looked into those fights, it was a little bit of there was nothing really too confident backing Marcin Prachnio. It was a small play of mine. It was a 1.5 unit play. Grabbed it at plus 105. See if we can get this to load here. Yep. Grabbed it at dog odds. And, really, I felt like Lins was going to have the advantage in the boxing, which he did. But it was the grappling that he really used to take this fight. He was pushing the pace, and he really took the fight in the third round. So a nice dog play cash is there to kick the card off. I felt very good about that. And stay with me here. We'll get to the second official play as we move through this card. Preston Parsons gets the victory over Evan Elder. Now he ends the undefeated streak of Evan Elder as Elder makes his UFC debut, and Parsons a tough customer there. Ayori takes on Cameron Else, gets the finish there. A lot of us felt pretty confident that Ayori was going to get the job done there. Cameron Else, not sure if he's a UFC caliber fighter. We all talked about that. How about Tyson Pedro takes out Ike Villanueva? Speaking of fighters that are not really UFC caliber, I think this is the last time we'll see Ike Villanueva get a shot to perform inside the octagon. I'd be surprised if we see him get another opportunity. And it was great to see Tyson Pedro come off a 3.5-year layoff, come back in and get the finish. And that's what we talked about. We talked about this in IG. Pedro needed to come in and make a splash. He didn't need just to get a W. He needed to get a finish over a guy like Villanueva, because Tyson Pedro in his prime, or the vintage Tyson Pedro that we knew from years back, would definitely get a finish over a guy like Villanueva. So it's good to see that. Sergey Kondozoko gets the finish over Dwight Grant. That was an exciting fight. Now that was a fight that I was very close to pulling the trigger on for an official play in Sergey. I did hesitate on that. So I saw some holes in Kondozoko's game, and Grant is a tough customer. And we saw the fight was a little shaky towards the beginning, but Sergey prevailed there. And I feel more comfortable that I stayed away from that fight. It was a little bit of an iffy fight towards the beginning of it, and it kind of played out how I thought it would towards the beginning of that fight. Marc-André Barriault takes out Jordan Wright. Finishes him very quickly, gets that guillotine. Jordan Wright really pressuring with the grappling and was really trying to get the fight down to the mat. I was a little surprised to see that. I thought that he should have tried to keep the fight a little bit more at bay and test the chin of Marc-André. And Marc-André shows to be a very well-rounded fighter, and that was a big victory for him, a much well-needed victory for him. And we'll see if he's right back in there again very quickly, as he just jumped from one fight to the other fight very quickly, even coming off a devastating knockout. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes right back in there again. Charles Jourdain takes out Lando Venata, pulls off a guillotine choke as well. Shows that not only is he a very talented striker, man, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's crafty down there in the mat. He had the one-arm guillotine locked in. It was beautiful. This was another fight that I was very close to pulling an official play on, but I did hesitate on this. Lando's been looking good as well, and I did hesitate on that as well. But again, you guys know I have action on all these fights, so this was a fight card that really put a lot of money in my pocket besides my official plays. As I said, we almost picked every single fight correctly on this card. Macy Barber takes out Montana De La Rosa. This was my second official play here. It was a 5-unit play. I want to talk about this fight here real quick, because this isn't the typical types of plays that I target. But when I was really breaking down tape on Macy Barber's last fight against Miranda Maverick, I was very pleased to see how she performed in that third round. I thought that she was going to be able to use her boxing and her striking a lot more in this fight to really bloody up and hurt Montana there, and that she would be able to hang with her in the wrestling exchanges. We see how well-rounded she's becoming, training with Uriah Faber and Team Alpha Male. I'm very high on Macy Barber once again. She's still very young, and I really like the the growth in her game that I've been seeing. And I was all over this play, got it at minus 185 units, and that capped a clean sweep on this card. We brought in some good money back in the wallet here, and it felt good. So it was much needed, right? We've had some bad luck with the judges as of recently, whatever you want to call it. You know, we haven't been doing as good as I like to do, man. I like to come into these fight cards and hit clean sweeps, and that's what we did here. And again, I didn't like a lot of the action I saw on this fight card, to be honest with you guys. That's why we only had 2 official plays, and I was almost hesitating on the Linz play at one point in time, but I pulled the trigger. This was a fight card that I felt very shaky about, and we still managed to make it a profitable one. So I felt great about that. Claudio Puelles, another fight that I was so close to pulling an official play on, but I saw some holes in his wrestling. I saw him get taken down a little bit in that Chris Grutzmacher fight, and I was worried Guido could have pushed the pace here and kind of broke him later in the fight. But Puelles is showing that he's crafty down in the mat as well, and he has an amazing trick in his arsenal with that knee bar. That's 3 knee bars now that he's pulled off in the UFC. He definitely knows what he's doing down there, and I'm excited to see him pull that off again in the future, because I guarantee you he will pull that knee bar off again sometime in the next couple of years, if not often. Needs to work on some things with the striking, but he's a young fighter and has a lot of potential to really represent the country of Peru there. And then we had Jessica Andrade, who takes out Amanda Lemos. Amanda was looking phenomenal on the feet early in this fight, but Jessica Andrade, you guys knew that I was backing her here. I've been saying it since the fight happened, and even leading up to this fight. Jessica Andrade is one of the greatest women's mixed martial artists of all time. She's a solid fighter, ex-champion. She's a future Hall of Famer. She's very well-rounded. She has different tools that she could use to finish the fight. It's not just her knockout power. We see it here, the standing arm triangle against the cage. That's something that we've never seen pulled off in the UFC, and it was a phenomenal finish, and her stock goes up the roof. I mean, this was a big feather in her cap, and Andrade likes to rock those feathers in her caps, the big old hat thing that she wears there. And big shout out to Jessica Andrade there, and she's back in her legit division, the division that she should be fighting in, and I'm excited to see her matched up with some of the top 5 talent in that division very soon there in the strawweight division. So that recaps UFC Vegas 52. You guys know what time it is now. We look forward to this upcoming weekend's event. Let's get into it. Tatsuro Taira taking out Carlos Candelario. You guys felt my excitement as we did that little brief touch up on this fight card for Tatsuro making his UFC debut. This is a young kid that's only 22 years old. He's 10-0 undefeated. He's undefeated as an amateur. And when I was breaking down film on him, it was very enjoyable to do. This guy is a very well-rounded fighter. Or I shouldn't even say guy. This is a kid. This kid is a very well-rounded fighter. He has great footwork. When you watch this guy battle, he's moving in and out so swiftly and so smoothly. He showed a great well-roundedness with his ground game, finishing the fight down in the mat with ease. Now, if you could say anything about him in a negative light, it's that we definitely haven't seen him fighting top-level talent. Of course, over in Japan, over in Shuto, he's fought 2 guys that are decent, but overall, it's definitely lower-level talent, obviously, than the UFC. So we're going to see him now tested against guys that are a little bit of a step up, and Carlos Candelario is that fighter. He's 8-1. He's coming off a very questionable loss. A lot of people thought he should have won that fight. And in fact, I do believe that he won that fight, although it was a very closely contested matchup. Either way you spin it, against Victor Altamirano, the very tough Mexican fighter. Victor Altamirano, though, has been looking very good. He arguably should have won his last fight. That was an official play of mine that I felt that I got stiffed on a little bit, if you guys remember that fight. But Carlos Candelario, a well-rounded fighter. He definitely can use his grappling and his using the clinch and his grappling in this fight to potentially give Tatsuro some issues here. We haven't really seen Tatsuro really tried and pushed in that aspect too much. If you break down tape on him, I mean, there's been some fights where I've seen some guys try to push him up against the cage, and he was able to spin out with ease. But again, it wasn't against really high-level talent and guys that really looked like they knew what they were doing there. So that's a big question mark. Can Carlos smother Tatsuro and really make this an ugly fight where he could potentially steal a decision? But you know what? I think that Tatsuro did look good there. He looked fundamentally sound with the way that he was spinning off and whatnot. And I think that he could avoid that situation where I think he'll be the better striker. I expect him to outland on Carlos. If it goes down to the mat, if Carlos really pushes the takedown, I think Tatsuro showed that he has above average jiu-jitsu. He definitely knows what he's doing there. He's a very well-rounded fighter, and I am taking Tatsuro Teara to win this fight. If he can go out there and win this fight with similar ease to what he's done against his past opponents, I do believe that we're going to start to see some big hype come behind him. And I think that he will be a fighter that really has the potential to hold it down for Japan. So I'm excited to see if that's going to come true here. We'll go take a look at the live line where we'll see him as up to a minus 265 favorite, right around that minus 250 range. That is decently high for a guy that's coming in, making his UFC debut over in North America here. On this side of the world against a step up in competition. Again, we haven't really seen him tested against guys that know what they're doing so much with the grappling. And Carlos Candelario is a guy that has proven he knows how to win. So I don't know if I'm crazy about that line, but I think he gets the job done. When you watch him perform in his past fights, he's in complete control of his opponent. He's manipulating them and doing what he wants in there. Carlos Candelario, although a well-rounded fighter, typically he's involved in these battles and closely contested matchups, but he still ends up really prevailing. I'm excited for this fight. I got Tatsuro Teara to win the fight, and I'm not sure if you want to mix it up in a parlay. We'll keep an eye on how he looks coming in here. We'll check him out at the weigh-ins and whatnot. We'll see how his confidence is looking and whatnot. But I think Tatsuro gets the job done, and you guys don't want to miss this matchup. The first fight on the card, it's a great one. Gina Mazany taking on Shayna Young. This is a below average matchup for the division, although I do have respect for both women. They do bring the fight, but these are two women that could potentially be out of the UFC relatively soon. I know Gina Mazany's been going back and forth, win-loss. You take a look at her victories over Rachel Ostovich, where she was able to really use her ground game. Rachel, I know she's doing her thing over on the bare knuckle scene, but as an MMA fighter was really not there. And then a victory over a King of the Cage against Valerie Barney. No real brownie points for that one. Shayna Young has won one of her last 4 fights, lost to Stephanie Egger, who's been looking really good. Her game's coming around. Lost to Macy Chiasson. The loss to Sarah Alper on Dana White's Contender Series, where she was submitted, definitely showed holes in her grappling game there. I think that Gina Mazany has an avenue to have some success there as well. And then on the feet, I think that Gina can prevail there as well. But I'm not saying that with complete confidence. Shayna Young has some power in her hands as well. And you see her flashing the guns here. She does come in phenomenal shape. She does have some strength to her, a little bit of power to her. But overall, not really impressed with her game. The thing I do like about Gina, of course, she's always preparing and training with some of the best in the game. James Krause, her husband, Tim Elliott, husband or boyfriend or fiance, whatever he is. She surrounds herself with real professionals. She comes in phenomenal shape. This is a fight that she should win. And I think she has different avenues to do it. I would like to see her come into this fight and try to use her ground game and pull off some similar tactics to what we saw in the Rachel Ostovich fight. We'll see if she could do that. She's going to have a 3.5 reach advantage as well on the feet, although she's an inch shorter. I think that Gina has an avenue to get the victory here. Maybe I shouldn't have been so hard on her saying that she can potentially be cut, but I'm not really as high on her in this division as obviously a lot of other women. And Shayna Young, she's got to show something here. Otherwise, I think that she is getting the boot. We'll take a look at the live line. And you see Gina Mazany right now from that minus 160 up to the minus 185 range. How do I feel about her at that line? Not overly confident. I think that, again, she's shown to be a flaky fighter at times. And again, let's pull up her last fight. Her last fight where she got knocked out by Priscilla Cachoeira. That's not a good look. She's creeping up on 34. Can Shayna Young crack her on the feet and maybe kind of dictate the fight from there, potentially get a finish? I mean, that's possible. But I will take Gina Mazany to win the fight. I think you kind of have to take Gina there. She has shown more. When you break down tape on her, she is the more polished fighter there. So I'll go with Gina Mazany. Mike Breeden taking on Natan Levy. I want to start off by talking about Natan Levy. He is coming off a loss, his first professional loss, but you know what? That was a fight where he actually looked pretty good, and that was against Rafa Garcia, whose stock's rolling pretty high right now, coming off a nice victory. That was a fight that I was watching very closely, as I had an official play on Rafa Garcia there, and he barely squeaked by just taking that third round and some closely contested grappling exchanges. But again, Natan Levy impressed me, and I just want to say, overall, I've been a little bit rough on the Israeli MMA scene. There's been some fighters they've tried to hype up over the years, and I just was never a believer in that scene. Natan Levy is legit, and he's going to be the fighter that has the potential to represent the country of Israel. I truly believe that. This is a UFC caliber fighter. This is a guy that can come in and really start to do some work here. And it's going to start off with him getting a nice victory here against Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden, a tough customer, 10-4. We saw him make make his UFC debut against Alexandr Hernandez, and he got starched. Took that fight on short notice, I do believe, and the UFC giving him another opportunity here. Not really sure if Mike Breeden is a UFC caliber fighter. I don't feel it. If you run his resume back, you look at the 4 losses that he's had, or the 3 losses coming into his UFC debut. Some of them are pretty questionable. Got finished by Brandon Jenkins. That was before the Dana White's Contender Series lost. He took to Anthony Romero as well. But the loss to Brandon Jenkins, where he got finished, I'm not even sure if Brandon Jenkins is a UFC caliber fighter. We just saw him get finished just recently against Drakkar Klose. And I think that this is Natan Levy's chance to do some work here. He's a legit martial artist. He has different types of tools in his arsenal. He could grapple. He could do it all. He could strike. And at 30 years old, going into the prime of his career, I think that he potentially gets a finish over Mike Breeden here, or either way does enough to get the unanimous decision. And you see Breeden getting tagged up by Hernandez here. I do give Breeden credit in that fight. He was very confident. He came out to throw down. He was looking to make it a dogfight. He just wasn't capable. And I don't know if he's capable here as well. We take a look at the live line, and we're looking at a live line right now of right around a minus 200 up to the minus 225 line on Natan Levy. Is this something that you potentially want to throw in a 2-teamer? Maybe throw a little 2-teamer parlay, or just attack Natan Levy straight up? Maybe that's something you potentially want to do. If you can get it under the minus 200 range, which I'm not sure if you'll have that ability at this point, that would be really nice as well. We'll see. Let's see if Natan Levy can show up. This is his chance right here. If he loses this fight, it's not going to be a good look for him. This is it for him. Or maybe I shouldn't say this is it, but this is pivotal. This is a big fight in his career. He has to show up. Yohan Lenez taking on Gabe Green. Yohan Lenez making his UFC debut here. Again, coming off that big victory on Dana White's Contender Series. Yohan Lenez, just a name of it reminds me of something that you want to put on your sandwich. Spread it upon the bread there as you add the turkey, the Swiss cheese, and put your pickle on the side. But this is a guy that has some legit power. The way that he starched Justin Burlinson on Dana White's Contender Series was a sight to witness. Definitely carries some big power, and I think that could be a major factor in this fight, as Gabe Green is definitely willing to engage on the feet. Gabe Green is extremely tough as well, and a decently well-rounded fighter. This is going to be a clash here. I really like the steam that Yohan Lenez brings out early in the fight, and I think there's some real potential for him to hurt Gabe Green. Maybe, potentially, the longer the fight goes, maybe it starts to favor Gabe Green, but I'm not even so sure about that either. Yohan Lenez, only 8 professional fights. I still do want to see a lot more from him. This is going to be a very telling fight for him. When you break down some of his earlier footage, we get a little bit of an idea of who he is, but I think there's still a lot more to behold of who he is as a fighter. He's 29. He's creeping up to the big 3-0 as he makes his UFC debut. We talked about him being potentially one of the guys that could really represent the country of Canada. I do believe that's the case, but he needs to go out here and get a big victory here. He'll have a 3-inch reach advantage. He is 3 inches taller than Gabe Green. He has the size advantage. He's a guy that really is filled out for the division. Eight victories in a row. Like I said, undefeated. We take a look at his last couple fights. He's coming off, out of his last 5 fights, 4 of them are finishes. You can pull up that flying knee against Lenny Rufati. That was another devastating knockout that he showed the ability to do something freakish like that. I mean, he's a fun fighter to watch. I think there's potential he gets the knockout here. And again, even if it goes to the later rounds, I'm not even so confident I say Gabe Green has the advantage there. There's potential that the white line looks good for 3 solid rounds as well. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm going to take the dog here in Yohan Linnaeus, which we'll pull up the live line on him right now. And Linnaeus is looking to be right around that plus 130 range with the comeback on Gabe Green, right around minus 150. And yeah, I think that this line should be closer. I'm a little surprised to see it there. I think that this fight, I understand why some people are thinking that Gabe Green has an advantage here. A little bit more battle tested and proven in the UFC 2 fights. Was able to take out Philip Rowe, who is a talented fighter. We know that. So that was a big victory for him there. Went 3 rounds with D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. But why not? Let's take the dog here. I think maybe the line should be a little bit closer. And, I can't stroll through this card picking favorites. You guys are going to put me to the flame. So we'll take Yohan Linnaeus here. All right, so they moved Alexandr Romanov versus Chase Sherman from last weekend's card up to this upcoming fight card. Again, Chase Sherman was taking this fight on short notice. It was originally supposed to be Tanner Bozier. If you want to hear a more in-depth breakdown on this fight, just check out my breakdown from last week. Although I'm just going to cut it quick for you guys right here. I think Alexandr Romanov dominates Chase Sherman. I think he gets the fight down to the mat, and I think he finishes him. I haven't seen anything from Chase Sherman that has proven to me that he could hang with an upper echelon guy in Alexandr Romanov. So, yeah, I think that Romanov gets the finish here. He's way more prepared for this fight, although it does look as if Chase Sherman has been training regularly and was preparing for a fight. He was staying ready over at Sanford MMA. If Sherman could stuff the takedowns, he could give Romanov some trouble. I just don't see it happening. And I've seen Romanov as high as a minus 2,500 right now, which is ridiculous. It's absurd. You shouldn't be touching that because you're not going to get anything back in return. And God forbid something weird happens, which we've seen some weird things happen in Romanov's fights, right? If you remember the Juan Espino fight, that was a weird ending. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be touching that line. But again, Romanov's going to win this fight. Daniel da Silva taking on Francisco Figueiredo. Of course, Francisco, the brother of Deiveson Figueiredo, one of the baddest men in the game right now. So people are really going to hold Francisco to high standards because of the performances and the abilities of his brother. Francisco, I do believe the older brother, people have been pretty hard on Figueiredo, and understandably, especially from his last fight against Malcolm Gordon, where he really made some mental errors in the fight that cost him the fight. She should not have been losing to a guy, Malcolm Gordon. But you know what? I think that there's still some ability that Francisco has. I like some of the explosiveness that he shows in the feet. He can crack. He can really kick as well. He has some good power in his kicks. He definitely needs to show better fighter IQ when he's in there. But if he works on that, I think that there's a decent ability for him to be a legit UFC fighter in the division. Definitely doesn't hurt that he's getting regular training and he's brushing shoulders with his brother Deiveson Figueiredo constantly, who is just an absolute stud. Of course, some of that is going to wear off on Francisco. Been a little bit back and forth on who I was going to pick in this fight. Daniel is a kid that definitely shows to have some good ability, and I think that he could come out here and easily win this fight, especially if Francisco makes those mental errors. I could see Daniel taking advantage of that on the feet or potentially down on the mat as well. Daniel da Silva, a guy that has shown to finish the fight with his grappling abilities often. We've also seen him get some knockouts. Look to perform decently in the beginning of that Jeff Molina fight in his UFC debut, but eventually was finished. I believe that was in the second round where he got cracked by Jeff Molina. We know that Jeff Molina is a legit fighter in the division. So there's some potential that Francisco might be able to land some big shots here and put it on Daniel as well. Both these guys, as far as their statures go, pretty much identical, with Francisco having if you want to call it the advantage in regards to the experience of his age, being 32. As far as their pro fights, Daniel De Silva is almost up there with him still, though. I'm actually going to take Francisco Figueiredo to win this fight. I have a feeling that he's really hungry coming off that loss that he just took. I think that he should learn from some of the mistakes that he made in there, play it a little bit smarter in this fight, and he does have some athletic ability, of course. He has some natural ability that if he can just use the right way, he can win this fight. And we'll take a look at the live line. He is a dog right now. He's right around a plus 110 dog. And, with the comeback on Daniel De Silva at minus 130, this is a very close fight. I don't necessarily feel confident in backing Francisco from a betting standpoint, especially from those mental errors that he showcased in his last fight. So maybe you stay away from this fight. You sit back and see if Francisco can start to put things together. And he could be a fun fighter in the division, just like his brother. Not saying he'll be near the same type of fighter from his abilities, but a fighter that's just fun to watch, that's explosive. We might see Francisco put some knockouts together in the octagon if he can right the ship here. That's a big if, though. I will take him to win the fight over Daniel De Silva. And Daniel is still a very young fighter. This isn't a make or break type of fight for him, but he needs to get the job done. He should really have a fire lit under him after getting starched in his UFC debut as well. But he's still only 25, so let's see how he performs. It should be a good fight. All right, boys, we are officially upon the main card. We got Gerald, the Meerschaert, taking on Krzysztof Jotko. Krzysztof Jotko, first off, let me let you guys know, he is a really cool dude. Bumped into him at a local bar a while back, and he was double fisting. He was strolling in the bar with two females by his side. And, he's a stud, man. He was cracking some jokes. He was really cool. Chopped it up with him for a minute or two. And he was just a pleasant guy to chat it up with. And he's a guy that really has some ability. And although he's listed at 6'1", he's a very, very rangy, long guy. I think he's more like 6'2", if you ask me. He's kind of towering over the teller, and the teller is right there at that 6 foot marker, just a little bit below. So that doesn't really add up to me. I think he's more of a 6'2" type of fighter. As it says, 6'1" here. Keep an eye on how Jotko looks against Meerschaert at the weigh-ins from a height standpoint, but not that has so much bearing in this fight. But a 77-inch reach for Jotko with the 77.5 reach for Meerschaert. Both these guys pretty much identical there. Meerschaert's a solid dude for the division as well. One of the greatest middleweight submission artists of all time. Let that sink in. GM3 is legitimately one of the greatest submission artists in the game from an accolade standpoint. Coming off 3 victories in a row. Of course, the Makhmud Muradov, one of the bigger ones there. But the submission victory over Bartosz Fabinski, the tough Polish wrestler, the rear naked choke victory over Dustin Stoltzfus, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Meerschaert is dangerous down on the mat. Although we saw him get starched against Khamzat Chimaev, ever since that fight, he's really put things together, and he's shown that he can take a shot. So I really don't think that the chin is actually that questionable. I think that he just got cracked in that fight. I think that Jotko definitely has an avenue to win this fight, and I don't necessarily think it's going to be by going out there and trying to starch Meerschaert like Khamzat did. I think that Jotko will use his footwork and try to string off some combinations and get the better of the striking exchanges on the feet. And that's what I see happening more so than anything in this fight, although there's a lot of different ways this fight could go. If Meerschaert can close the distance and really make this an ugly fight, get this fight down to the mat, he potentially could pull off a sub. Meerschaert striking has been coming around as well. But overall, I think that Jotko has been looking pretty good as of recently. He's a guy that was very hyped up at one point in time. Did lose 3 fights in a row. Some of them were pretty close. They were all against decent opponents, decent level of opponents. And since then, just going out there and doing enough to get the job done. He did lose to Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland, one of the top guys in the division. He's coming off the split decision victory over Misha Serkinov. And this is a fight that I don't necessarily feel confident in. And as we take a look at the live line, I'm not necessarily in agreement with the line. Let me be clear on that. Jotko right now right around a -170 with the comeback on Meerschaert at +150. I think that line is a little off. I think it should be a lot closer. In fact, I think that I would have Jotko capped more around a -130, -125 with almost even odds on Meerschaert or a slight dog +110 or whatnot. And so people have some confidence in Jotko because he does get the job done quite often. But let's see how this fight takes place. It might get a little sticky, a little ugly in there. And Meerschaert has been looking good. But I still say that Jotko uses his footwork, pumps the jab, and is a little bit quicker with his striking than Meerschaert. I think that's the edge there. And I wouldn't be shocked if Jotko hurts Meerschaert. At times we've seen Meerschaert lacking a little bit with the striking defense. I wouldn't be shocked if Jotko lands a couple big shots as he uses his footwork and circles around the cage. I will take my boy Krzysztof Jotko to win the fight. And the ladies' man, Krzysztof Jotko, coming from Poland over to South Florida, double fisting, and he's a cool dude. Hey guys, real quick, I want to give all of you a shout out that have went over and followed me on IG, MMA Fortune Teller _, that have went over and followed me on Twitter. You guys know I'm definitely picking up the Twitter game. Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Some crazy wild stuff going on over there. The MMA Teller over on Twitter. Shout out to all you guys that have went and followed me on my social media platforms. Shout out to every one of you guys that have subscribed and followed to me over here at the channel. It means a lot to me. I'm trying to hit that 10K marker on IG. Go catch me over on IG. Hit that follow button. And real quick, if you guys are interested in taking my official plays, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'll let you guys know what my pricing is. And you can shoot me an email or shoot me a message on these social media platforms, and I'll give you the details there. And also remember, if you're looking for a new sports book, if you sign up to bovada.lv through my referral link, just reach out to me. I'll give you the details on how that works. It's a great sports book. I will give you an entire fight card for free. I'll give you an entire weekend of free plays, including my Sports Betting Weekly plays, which again, keep in mind, my Sports Betting Weekly channel is going to be picking up in a major way now that we got the studio in the works that will be opening up in the next couple weeks. All right, guys. Shout out to all you guys. I really, really appreciate all the support. Let's get back into this breakdown. Darren Elkins, actually, let me say Darren the Damage Elkins. Definitely got to mention his nickname there. One of the more fitting nicknames that a fighter has ever had. Taking on Tristan Connelly. Darren Elkins, let me just say this first and foremost, a guy that I have great respect for, an OG in the game. He's been around forever and still almost 38 years old now, still doing his thing. Showing how tough he is. As of recently, I'll be honest, man, he's burned me. I tried to fade him in the Darren Minner fight, and it cost me. I think that's a fight that Minner really let go. I know Minner knows that. I think I even chatted it up with Minner. I chatted it up with James Krause after that fight. And if I'm calling it how it is, man, James Krause, I got the DMs, man. He calls it as it is, and by no means was he being disrespectful to his student or whatever you want to call it, but James Krause just calls it for what it is, and he knows that Minner messed up. I know Minner knows he messed up too. That was a fight that Minner should have won. Should have avoided those grappling exchanges instead of diving into them. He would have had a major advantage on the feet. Elkins is very stiff on the feet. I'm not a fan of his striking whatsoever. I've been fading Elkins for a while now, and it has also paid off as well. I had Nate Landwehr in the fight against Elkins. He edged that fight in that bloody, gruesome fight. Elkins is just extremely stiff, but he continues to push forward. His cardio is ridiculous. He has a granite chin, although I think it is starting to catch up with him a little bit. I think that as he's getting cracked, we see him wobbling a lot more throughout the past couple of years. And although he's proven to be a tough fighter from that standpoint, I think that it actually is a little bit of a hole in his game at this point. I think the striking defense is so lacking that I do believe that there's real legitimate potential for him to be finished in any of these fights moving forward now at the age of 38 and with the amount of damage that he's taken. But if you don't get him out of there and you make some mental errors and you fade, you get tired. There's stories of Darren Elkins training over at Team Alpha Male, just going nonstop for hours with tough Russian fighters, all types of guys, just cycling guys in, and Elkins does not get tired. There's war stories of him in the gym that are ridiculous. If you go on YouTube, you listen to certain guys talking about him. He's a legit fighter. But you know what? Tristan Connelly, in his UFC debut, did something that not a lot of guys could do. He went in there. We thought that was going to be a common theme, but it wasn't the case. He went in there and grinded out Michel Pereira in that fight. Excuse me. And Tristan Connelly has shown to be a decently well-rounded fighter. We've seen him go out there, get some finishes on the regional scene before coming into the UFC, whether it was knocking guys out, submitting them. He's a well-rounded fighter, has great cardio, even in his last fight, in that loss against Pat Sabatini, who you guys know I'm very high on. Connelly actually, I believe he won that third round after losing the first two. So that says a lot. Sabatini has probably the best, one of the best cardios in the division. So, let that be clear. Although he lost the first two rounds, he showed that he's very tough. He wasn't out of it in that third round. And that's big going against a guy in Elkins who looks to fade his opponents. I think Connelly could hang with him there. I think Connelly could potentially hurt him on the feet. And shout out to my boy French Flamingo 135, man. This is a cat that's working his way to the UFC. This is a dude that's been watching the show here. I hope you're watching right now or listening right now. I think that would be pretty funny. But a guy that always watches my show, is always respectful, super cool. Shout out to the French Flamingo who is getting it in here, a training with Tristan going into this fight. So we can really get some good insight on this fight. I actually got to catch up with my boy French Flamingo. But I'm sure he's going to say that Tristan Connelly is ready to go here. And I'm sure he is. And I'm going to be taking Tristan Connelly to get the job done here. He has a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Both these guys the same height. Not too worried about the reach disadvantage. I think Connelly can crack on the feet. And I will pick Tristan Connelly, the dog here, to win the fight, who's right around a plus 140 underdog in this matchup to come back on Elkins, with action coming in on Elkins. People think that they see something here. So there's action coming in on Elkins, excuse me. I will pick Tristan Connelly to win the fight, though. Taking place in the lightweight division, Gerald Flash Gordon taking on Grant Dawson. Now, we've seen both these guys fight at different weight classes before. Both them trying to settle in here in the lightweight division. Gerald Gordon coming off 3 victories in a row. And those victories, he's really, really prevailed with his grappling and his cardio, pushing the pace and just smothering guys. Grant Dawson, a fighter that has shown to have some real ability. We know he could wrestle. He's been working on his striking. The phenomenal last-second knockout victory over Leonardo Santos. Now, that was a fight he was potentially losing. I know that the judges had him up, actually, on the scorecards, but I had some action on him in that fight, and I think that he questionably could have been losing that fight. Of course, in his last fight against Rick Glenn, did not finish strongly and the fight ended up going to a draw after he got beat down in that third round. So Grant Dawson really needs to iron some things out here if he wants to have that potential and that hype to continue to follow him. Here's a big thing here going into this fight. Believe it or not, Grant Dawson training over at American Top Team. You see him hitting the mitts with Thiago Alves, a legend in the game. Grant Dawson, I was surprised to see that he went over to American Top Team. We know that he's been working with James Krause forever over at Glory MMA Fitness. I'm kind of interested to know how that conversation went. I'm sure Krause was probably cool with it, but I'm a little interested why he made the move down to American Top Team for this fight. If anybody else has some deeper insight on that, I would like to know, because Grant Dawson is really the protege of Krause. So, if this was TJ Dillashaw and Faber, a similar situation like that, I mean, you guys remember how big of a deal it was back in the day. I mean, nowadays seems to just go right under the radar, but maybe James Krause is a little bit upset about it. Who knows? Back to Gerald Gordon. You see him hitting the pads over here with Henry Hooft over at Sanford MMA. Now, these are two of the top gyms in South Florida, Sanford MMA and American Top Team. These guys are getting legit training coming into this fight. As we see, let's take a look into how we see this fight going down, right? Grant Dawson, ever since the Dana White's Contender Series debut that he had when he had that fight there, he definitely showed that he can push the pace and really, really wrestle with the best of them. We know that's what Gerald Gordon likes to do as well. That's why I'm very interested to see how they clash there. I'm really interested to see who gets the better of those wrestling exchanges and whose cardio looks fresher. I think that Gerald Gordon will be the more meaty, more solid guy here. As even though he's shorter by an inch and has a smaller reach, he will be a little bit of the more naturally thicker fighter, in my opinion. But I'm interested to see both these guys square off at the weigh-ins. So the key for Gordon here is going to be to do the same thing that he's been doing. He's going to have to try to smother Dawson, really push the pace, and just make it a grueling fight and edge Dawson out there, which won't be easy to do. I'm not a big fan in the striking of Gordon. Again, you see him putting work in with one of the best striking coaches in the game. I'm still not a big fan of what I've seen from him on the feet. I think that Gordon is questionable at the striking defense at times. We've seen him clipped. We've seen him finished on the feet as well. Dawson is a guy that can mix things up on the feet as well. He'll throw some unorthodox types of strikes at you. He can head kick you. He can sneak a knee in. He's silky smooth with his striking. He's been working on it. And there's potential for something like that to happen as well. Don't be shocked if Dawson gets a knockout victory. But I'm interested to see the wrestling exchanges and who pushes the pace later in this fight, who takes the fight in the third round. And I would not be shocked if Gordon gets another victory here, but I'm going to roll with my boy Grant Dawson. And, Jared Gordon's last loss was against the champ, Charles Oliveira. So other than that, just going out there, handling business, getting a victory over Joe Selecki, where he was able to out-grapple him. Selecki, a phenomenal grappler. That says a lot. There's potential he could do that same type of thing to a guy in Grant Dawson. So you keep an eye on that. Let's take a look at the live line. Grant Dawson right now, right around a minus 155 up to the minus 170 type range. I've been a little bit back and forth with how I feel about this line. I like Dawson. He should be the better striker here. And like I said, he's shown to be a guy that could really wrestle, grapple, and push the pace as well. So hopefully he could hang with Gordon there. But if he's not up to par there, Gordon will take advantage of that aspect of the fight. Let's see how it plays out. I like Dawson to get the job done. This is a good one. It's a good fight. Andrei, touchy Fili taking on Joanderson, Brito. Joanderson, Brito. Now remember, made a splash on Dana White's Contender Series just about, 7 months ago against the very tough and talented Diego Lopes. Since then, made his debut in the UFC. He did take an L there against Bill Algeo. Joanderson looked pretty good in the first round. He arguably could have won that round, but then he kind of faded in the fight. Algeo took over in the last 2 rounds. Andrei Fili coming off a very, very disappointing performance where he really should have, or he was on his way to winning that fight. He was really dismantling and picking apart Daniel Pineda. Daniel Pineda, a fighter that's been so up and down throughout his career with the, getting caught for taking performance-enhancing drugs, having phenomenal performances over in the PFL scene, coming into the UFC, starting to not look like that same type of fighter once again. So it's kind of hard to judge that fight. But either way, Fili looked phenomenal in that fight. And unfortunately, due to the eye poke that he hit him with, it went to a no contest. But let's be clear, Fili looked to be the best version of himself that I've ever seen at the age of 31, almost 32. I think he's hitting the prime of his career right now. Before that, lost to Bryce Mitchell. It was a close fight. We know Mitchell's the real deal. Before that, took out Charles Jourdain, who we know is the real deal as well. Before that, tough fight with Sadiq Youssef. And before that, the knockout over Shayman Moraes. Again, I think that Fili's hitting his stride right here. I think he's the best version of himself that we've ever seen. Brito can crack early. So you definitely keep in mind that Brito is a guy that can definitely lay anybody out. This guy comes and brings it as soon as the bell rings. He definitely can put anybody out, and that's including Fili. Do I see that necessarily happening? I don't think so. I think that Fili uses very good footwork. Just to point it back to somebody else, and Krzysztof Jotko, I think they remind me of themselves a little bit, although Fili's a more fine-tuned product. He's a better fighter, for his division. But similar types of fighters, they use good footwork. They know how to strike from the outside and work their way in and out. And I could see Fili avoiding the sledgehammers of Brito here, and as the fight progresses, I think that Fili will be the more fresh fighter, and he can start to up the pace then, and maybe really start to put it on Brito. I gotta back Fili. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from him recently. He'll have a 2-inch reach advantage. He's the taller fighter here. He's the more rangy fighter, and he's a cool dude. I've commented back and forth with him a little bit in some of his IG posts. He's always a funny dude. You know what I mean? He's a cool dude, a laid back dude. And I go with Andrei Touchy Fili here, the long time Team Alpha male product. And we take a look at the live line, and he is a pretty hefty favorite here, right up to the minus 275 range. That's a little dangerous, in my opinion, facing off against a guy in Joanderson Brito who can crack. But Fili is a complete fighter. He's polished up anywhere this fight goes, and he is the better fighter here and should get the job done. Andrei, the Pitbull Arlovski, a guy that has 53 professional fights, stepping in there for his 54th pro fight, and the majority of them taking place in the UFC, I believe. I know a lot of them were. And he's taking on the guy Jake Collier here. Jake Collier, the prototype. What a nickname, right? The prototype. Does anybody want to drop in the definition of the prototype? A prototype. It's kind of interesting, right? For a guy in Jake Collier who used to look like this, but now steps in looking like this. But he is coming off a big victory where he looked pretty good against Chase Sherman, but it was against Chase Sherman. So you take that with a grain of salt. Before that, did put up a tough fight against Carlos Felipe. Collier showing he has some boxing ability for the division. Before that, handled business against Gene Vellante, another guy that's been looking really bad. And then before that, gets starched by Tom Aspinall. And that's really when he made his heavyweight debut in the octagon. And we saw this new version of Collier here. Again, Collier used to actually fight in the welterweight division. I think he's had fights in the middleweight division as well, now settling in at the heavyweight division. A very interesting guy. You got to wonder when the UFC started cracking down on performance-enhancing drugs or whatnot, or just obviously there's some lifestyle changes that he's had as well, obviously. But again, does know how to fight. Let's not completely overlook him. If he cracks Arlovski with the shot, with the boxing, if he cracks him with the shot, there's definitely potential he lays Arlovski out. I'm still not a full believer. I say it every time. I know Arlovski keeps going out there and avoiding those knockout losses, but I'm not a firm believer that Arlovski's chin is sustainable. I know he's eating some shots and he uses his footwork. He avoids those big shots, but if he makes one mental error, I could easily see him going out just how he used to go out back in the day, where he was there was a run where he was getting starched left and right, if you guys remember that, over in the Strikeforce days. And he since had a resurgence in his career. It's funny, I point out the one time where I bumped into him at the local Home Depot, and I believe that's who he was with, his wife. It's funny because I thought she had blonde hair at the time. She probably dyed it or whatnot. But yeah, man, imagine you're waiting to get something over there. You're by the paint section, and you see Arlovski and his wife, who's also tall as hell. You see that couple sitting there. When you see Arlovski in person, man, he is a warrior. That guy looks just like a warrior. Like he's built for the battlefield. He's a specimen, and he's still doing his thing up in age, all the way up in the 40s. He's 43 years old, still comes in good shape. This guy is the ultimate professional. And I'm going to take Arlovski here. There's potential for him to get knocked out, for him to get hurt in the feet with the boxing. But I think Arlovski overall uses the footwork, gets the job done here. I'm not too confident in a guy like Jake Collier who comes in, seems to be an undisciplined guy. He'll have a 1.5 reach advantage, Will Collier. But I still think Arlovski uses the footwork, does enough to win a decision here. But also note that Arlovski does throw some heavy shots out there here and there throughout his fight. So I wouldn't be shocked if he cracks Collier up in the heavyweight division, maybe gets a knockout there. But most likely I see Arlovski getting another decision victory. Keep in mind, we had an official play on Arlovski against Jared Vanderaa to win via decision in that last fight. Do believe Collier is a little bit more of a threat on the feet than Vanderaa. So mind that. But yeah, we will take Arlovski. In the live line right now, right around that -145 down to the -135 range. So people giving some respect to Collier as well. They see that he's dangerous on the feet. And he's not just a complete joke. But I like Arlovski to win the fight there. And if he wins that fight, I mean, we're talking about a 4-fight winning streak. Winning 4 of his last 5 fights. Even if you go back, I think it's even looking good even past that. Arlovski's still doing his thing. It's crazy. We got a main event matchup of Rob Font taking on Marlon Chito Vera. 2 top 10 bantamweight fighters. 2 guys that always bring the fight. This is a very, very exciting main event clash right here. I like it. In one of my more favorable divisions. 2 guys that always bring the fight. This is going to be a good one here. We'll take a look at the rankings real quick. That's got to make you cringe here. You see Aljamain Sterling labeled as the champion. And then you got Petr Yan there, TJ Dillashaw, Jose Aldo, Sandhagen. And then we hit Rob Font at the number 5 spot. Still ranked very high in the division. You got Merab there, Cruz, and then you got Marlon, Chito Vera ranked at number 8. So we're talking about 2 guys at the top of the food chain in this division. This fight is really going to have some big bearing of how this top 10 plays out moving down the line in the next year or so. This is a big fight here, especially being on a main event. Being in a main event slot like this, I think that the winner of this fight is going to really carry some momentum and work their way into some big fights in the division. Rob Font coming off a loss, but he always brings the fight. It was a tough loss. It was against Jose Aldo. He kind of took a step back really in that fight, but Aldo, a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest fighters ever, one of the greatest featherweights of all time. People sleep on the ability that Aldo still possesses. We saw Aldo also work Vera in that fight. Before that, Rob Font, taking out Cody Garbrandt, just beating him down, finishing Marlon Moraes, taking out Ricky Simone, a very, very talented fighter in the division, a dark horse in the division, a guy that has a victory over Merab Dvalishvili. And then before that, taking out Sergio Pettis, the current Bellator champion, and the current bantamweight champion over in Bellator, I believe, right? Marlon Vera coming off that nasty knockout victory over Frankie Edgar in a fight that he was potentially losing before he hit him with that shot. Victory over Davey Grant before that, and then we talk about the loss against Aldo, the victory over Sean O'Malley, that was a weird one, and then we get the loss over Song Yadong, and that was a fight that a lot of people thought Vera should have won, so we'll just go over that real quick. Both these guys are going to bring the fight. They're going to clash. It's going to happen. I'm a big fan of Rob Font's boxing, and I think that he may have a slight edge in the boxing department. Vera, a little bit more diverse with his striking attacks, using the kicks a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if Vera tries to work the calf kicks, work the leg kicks. Rob Font's not inadequate there with his defense. I could see him checking some of those as well. I'm very excited to see how those altercations and exchanges take place. As you see, the New England Cartel with the legend Chuck Liddell, man, I would have loved to have been at the bar having a drink next to these guys, man. 3 warriors, straight up warriors. Liddell respects these guys because I'm sure it reminds him of the type of fighter that he once was. All these guys bring the fight. Interesting fact about these guys, man. Rob Font, every time he's taken an L throughout his pro career, has always bounced back with a big victory. So again, coming off this loss against Aldo, does he continue that trend? Calvin Kattar, the same could be said about him. I know these 2 guys are like brothers. They train. They're very similar type of fighters. When Kattar takes a tough loss, like we saw him take against Max Holloway, bounces back with a giant victory over the very talented kickboxer. Name slipping my mind right now. The Georgian fighter. Sorry that the name is slipping my mind right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Giga Chikazi, there. I think that Rob Font's going to rise to the occasion once again, man. I do. I'm a big fan of Chito's as well. I think he's a very talented fighter, but if Chito tries to bring this fight down to the mat, Rob Font has shown time and time again that he has a great get-up game. He always works his way back up to his feet. He has an underrated ground game as well. He has a great cardio for the division. He pushes the pace. I think he can hang with Chito there. And then as far as just them mixing it up, I think that Rob Font can get the better of those exchanges. Keep in mind, like I said, Frankie Edgar was potentially winning that fight before he got hit with that knockout. Let's see. There was a couple other fights too where Marlon was a little bit off to a slow start there. I could see Rob Font having some success with the boxing. I could see him winning some early rounds, potentially stringing off the first 3 rounds. Maybe Vera starts to pick the pace up or whatnot, but it might be too late, or maybe it's already 2-1, and then Font just has to take one more round to solidify the fight with 2 rounds left. I could see something happening like that. Although it's a 5-round fight, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to a division. Both these guys extremely tough and durable. I'm taking my boy Rob Font here, and it wasn't necessarily an easy decision. I have a lot of respect for Chito Vera's ability, but it's the boxing that I favor Font having a slight edge in. When they mix it up with those boxing exchanges, I think Font will have a little bit more success. And when Vera throws those kicks, I could see Font countering with some shots as well. So we take a look at the live line. We're looking at a live line right now of minus 140 on Font with the comeback of plus 120 on Vera. It's a similar trend of a line that we've seen on Font right around this range, and I think Font gets the job done here. But it is a dangerous fight, and Marlon Chito Vera may be the more well-rounded fighter, the more diverse striker, and maybe he could edge out some rounds there. And then real quick, I want to pull up their age and their stature and whatnot. Both guys 5'8", almost identical statures, but with Vera being 29 years old, Will Font's almost 35 for the division. Font is up there in age. Seems not to be having any type of issues with the damage that he's taken and being up there in age. I think he still comes in phenomenal shape. He still comes in phenomenal shape, and he still looks to be a very fresh fighter. But maybe we see a better version of Vera. Maybe we see more evolution, and he ends up showing up and squeaking this one out. But I go with Rob Font to win the fight here. All right, guys, that wraps up the fight card. Again, I'm going to leave you guys with this as a signing off note. The studio is being worked on right now. Again, I told you guys it's going to take some weeks though, man. We got painting to do. Got to set up a whole new desk. I'm setting up a whole lounge area. I'm working on putting up some dope MMA artwork all throughout the studio. I cannot wait to show you guys how it looks, but it's going to take some weeks, but I will be recording in the studio very, very soon. And hopefully, or I will have the video camera set up in a better way. I'm working on getting a new camera, making sure the audio is fine-tuned and all that small stuff that goes into these videos. So I do apologize if anything's been a little weird throughout these last couple of videos. As you guys see, I like to joke and say, someone was joking about it. I like to branch off that I'm on the run. I'm recording from random places, and you know, I can't wait to show you guys the final product, but it will take a little bit more time. But it's going to be dope. And I'm on Instagram. I'll be doing stories, videos. I'll be chilling in the studio, and we'll just have a lot of wild things going on in there. And I can't wait to show you guys that. And we will start having a lot of live videos coming at you guys on YouTube, which I can't wait to get the live videos coming to you guys. And just a lot better content in the near future. So shout out to all you guys for the support. I truly mean that. Every single one of you guys that's still rolling with me right here to the end of this video. I know you guys are the real true blue supporters, and I got nothing but love for you guys. You guys are like family. Truly mean that, man. When you think about it in a deep way, man, you guys really, you know, you're here with me, man. You guys are here with me through the process. I really appreciate that. We share a deep passion of MMA and betting on MMA, but really the sport of MMA, just being a fan of it. And I relate to all you guys, and it's somewhat of a brotherhood, even though I don't know all you guys in person and whatnot, even though I've met some of you guys at these fights, and I will meet a lot of you guys in the future. It's somewhat of a brotherhood in a weird way. So much love to all you guys. And on that note, we'll sign out. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.